bill is in direct response to radical tactics of pro-Palestinian protesters who have intentionally blocked roads across the country. In Louisiana, the American Civil Liberties Union is getting lawyered up just in case it does not like the results of next week's special redistricting session. Governor Jeff Landry called the special legislative session in response to a federal judge's order. The judge ruled that the congressional district map approved last year by Louisiana's Republican-led legislature dilutes the black vote in the state. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the tether?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers are back at 500 after a one-point win last night over Toronto. First time they have won consecutive games since December 7th. Strong game from Anthony Davis. He scored 20 of his game-high 41 points in the fourth quarter. AD also had 11 rebounds. LeBron had 22 points and 12 assists. Toronto is staying in town to play the Clippers tonight at Crypto.com. The Clippers are only 3 games behind Minnesota for the best record in the Western Conference. Tip-off time tonight is 7:30. 4 NFL teams are now looking for a new head coach. Tennessee fired Mike Vrabel on Tuesday. Tennessee joins the Chargers, Atlanta, and Washington in the search for a new head coach. Magic Johnson, part owner of the Washington Commanders, hired former Golden State GM Bob Myers to assist him with the Commanders' coaching search. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
So, what are you doing this Friday morning? How about you come join the KBLA delegation as we make a historic announcement and unveil our climate justice campaign for 2024. We'll be assembled for this major press conference along with LA Mayor Karen Bass, Ben Jealous, Executive Director of the Sierra Club, and a host of other public and private leaders who are joining us on this journey to justice, climate justice. We can't think of a better way to kick off the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend, linking social justice and climate justice. So, come join us this Friday morning at 10:30 a.m. at the beautiful MLK Memorial Tree Grove at the top of Kenneth Hahn Park off La Cienega. Once again, that's this Friday morning, January 12th at 10:30 a.m. as we take on the task of elevating the climate conversation by amplifying the voices of those who are most impacted by the climate catastrophes we are all witnessing in real time. KBLA delegation, we hope to see you this Friday morning at KBLA Talk 1580. Climate is king. Climate is king. Climate is king. Climate is king. Climate is king.
Say it all the time whenever we play Stevie in between segments. It's hard to step on Stevie Wonder. He sounds so good all the time. But the show must go on. Thank you, Stevie. In this hour, you can let it ride a little longer, Miles, while I tee up what's happening in this hour. Two conversations in this hour. On the B side, John Arson enlightens us on the legacy of the Triple Nickels. The Triple Nickels, America's pioneering black paratroopers. But we commence this hour with Dr. Eugenia Clark on Fisk University's pivotal role in the civil rights movement and its unwavering fight for equity. Dr. Clark, good to have you on this program. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for the invitation.
It's good to have you on. It feels like I was just laughing. It feels like a Black History Month hour. We ain't got to February yet, but around here we celebrate Black History every day. So whether we're talking today or in February, we celebrate Black History every day. We rooting for everybody black, and so I never know how these hours come together. My producers, put shows together and things fall into place, and it's just fascinating that in this hour we're talking about two institutions, two history-making groups of people, Fisk right now, and again the Triple Nickels, this black pioneering group of paratroopers. We'll get to that on the back side of this hour. But let me just jump right in. There's been a lot of news of late, and over the last few years, a number of articles here and there about Fisk. It's a grand institution. You gotta love that statue of Du Bois that stands on the grounds at Fisk. I've been to Fisk many times, and I consider it one of the great honors of my career, in my life, to have been the recipient of an honorary doctorate from Fisk, and having been commencement speaker there some years ago. So again, a great honor for me to be celebrated by Fisk in that way. But it's fascinating to have a conversation about the pivotal role they played, of course, in the movement. But I want to start with a broad question about the condition, the state of Fisk in real time. Tell me that first, and then we'll jump from there.
Okay, fabulous. So that is the question that is truly what is resonating with the board and the leadership of our institution. Because you may be aware that yesterday was Founders Day at Fisk.
Mm-hmm.
More than 150 years ago, yesterday, students were enrolled at this institution. And you probably recall, Fisk University started as the Freed Colored People School, because this is right after the Civil War, and we, as newly freed people, didn't have access to institutions of higher learning. So this one was established here in Nashville, and by the way, it is the oldest institution of higher learning in Nashville, and it was established for that purpose. But more back to your question specifically. I have been sharing with everyone and anyone who wants to hear today's story on Fisk. My message has been this: Fisk University continues to be wealthy in the caliber of students that we serve on our campus. We continue to be wealthy in the academic scholarship that is coming out of our campus. And we continue to be wealthy in staff and leadership and board direction at Fisk University. But what we don't have is what you've been talking about for years, going all the way back to the covenant with Black America. We do not have economic wealth. The level of investment financially into the sustainability of this institution is not on par with its 150 years of existence. Mm-hmm. As a result of that, where Fisk is today, we are still standing, despite the fact that the majority of our buildings are historic in nature, despite the fact that we have not had the economic support that will allow us to invest in the infrastructure and the facilities to assure that we're going to be in existence for another 150 years. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of just been in the role now for about 90 days, and that is the opportunity that gets me the most excited, is the honor and the privilege of saying, oh, we are still here, despite the fact that there hasn't been an on-par level of economic investment in Fisk. But the reason we're still here, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, finish it. The reason we're still here, finish your thought, I'm sorry.
The reason we're still here is that despite that, we refuse to go away. Mm-hmm. And so now my focus and attention is, how do I keep the level of sustainability
Yes.
that has resulted in us being here for more than 150 years?
And when we come forward, I want to come straight to that point because Fisk is not the only person, the only school that is, rather, in this situation. You're not the only person as president of one of these institutions. You're not the only person grappling and wrestling with these realities. And there are all kinds of conversations about what we do about these grand institutions like Fisk that are, trying to navigate their ways through some difficult economic times. Other HBCU presidents are dealing with the same thing. There are all kinds of ideas. Some suggest that schools ought to consolidate, et cetera, et cetera. But my question when we come forward right quick is why that support has not been on par, that economic investment, that support has not been on par with the grand legacy of a place like Fisk. We're talking with the president of Fisk University, Dr. Eugenia Clark, on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of this light of ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This light of ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This light of ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
This is Tavis Smiley in dialogue with the president of Fisk University, Dr. Eugenia Clark, who I'm honored to have on this program talking about the pivotal role this school has played in civil rights history and its unwavering fight for equity, even as many of these HBCUs struggle to get on the good foot, as the Godfather of Soul, James Brown, might say. We were playing Stevie earlier, and now I got a James Brown reference, so I just love black music. What can I tell you? My question, though, I'm just watching my time here. I want to manage it better. Tell me more about why you believe, and this is a conversation about Fisk, but as you know, as I opined earlier, it's a much broader conversation about HBCUs because there are many that are, again, struggling with these economic realities. Why do you think that the support has not been commensurate with the legacy of this institution?
Mm-hmm. And I would say for each HBCU, we each probably have a different journey that has brought us to this place. And what I'm focused on right now is the journey that has gotten Fisk to this place and what the journey is going to look like ahead. But there's some things that are happening now that I believe give better supportive data and foundational information so that donors and funders are looking at HBCUs differently.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if you haven't seen it, I think one day this week, Brown University did a report from the Annenberg Institute for School Reform. And in it, it talks about the importance of Black students enrolling at HBCUs and how they are graduating at higher rates, their higher rate of satisfaction for their higher ed experience. But more importantly than that, everyone is interested in what is the economic impact to those students as individuals and to the communities that they become a part of. This study takes it a step further, and it just basically says that the students who graduate from an HBCU, they have higher household incomes when compared to students graduating from PWIs or predominantly white institutions. All of that to say that we're at a place now where HBCUs are finally gathering and data and information about the impact of our students in our communities, their impact on their professional and personal lives is greater for them and our country because they're matriculating at a higher rate and they're outperforming a lot of their peers within our community. I think what has happened as a direct response to your question is that we have got to do a better job of sharing the importance of these investments because everyone is interested in how these investments become a better investment in our communities. And that's what we've got to do a stronger job of.
I was reading something not too long ago, Dr. Clark, and it made the case, I think, pretty persuasively, that one of the best reasons for attending HBCUs even today is particularly in this era of DE&I, but let me be more exact, in an era where they're now retrenching. We see retrenchment on DEI, right? Everybody made these commitments after the murder of George Floyd to do better. Ain't nobody really honored it. Now they're all in retrenchment mode. On this program yesterday, I had a Black woman who was one of the major diversity officers here in Hollywood, in L.A., where I sit. This station, this show, I should say, is heard across the country in syndication, but I'm based here in L.A., and she came in the studio yesterday. Her name was Janelle English, and there was a big story a few months ago about all these Black women who were running DE&I in major Hollywood studios, major Hollywood spaces, and they all sort of left around the same time. It became a national story that 6 Black women were just walking out of Hollywood, fed up with all the DE&I drama. I raise that in part because we're in a moment now where we see retrenchment in that regard, but the data suggests that when companies are looking to hire Black people to get those numbers up, rather than going to a place like I matriculated from, Indiana University, and trying to find Tavis and a few other Negroes with a magnifying glass amongst this sea of whiteness, if you go to Fisk or Morehouse or Howard or FAMU or TSU or wherever, you got a whole bunch of Black folk to choose from. So that the data seems to suggest that you have a better chance of being hired, in fact, if you go to an HBCU because they come directly to you looking for Black folk. I don't know if you've seen data that suggests that as well, but it seems to me that's a strong argument even now, a strong economic argument, in fact, for getting Black folk to consider HBCUs even in real time.
Absolutely. And I will say in my brief 90 days in this role, I'm amazed at the number of requests I get from businesses wanting to recruit our students. Now, the primary reason they should be recruiting our students is because they're the best and the brightest. And that has not been lost on them. So recruitment efforts are up. We're very excited that we even have a center, a new facility. As a matter of fact, the newest facility on our campus is a Roland Parish Career Center, because that demand, as you described, is going up. And we want to make sure that we're in a position to inform our students of all internship opportunities, employment opportunities, career advancement opportunities, and that you absolutely have nailed it. But I don't sense right now at Fisk that businesses have even pulled back on their request to be in front of our students. It continues to grow. And I would say that there's no better place to do that right now than at Fisk University. So thank you for bringing that up, because that is an area, again, that goes back to the many areas that we're wealthy in. Yeah. And that is putting opportunities in front of our students.
Yep. Let me ask a personal question. And again, I could ask this of any number of HBCU presidents who are grappling and wrestling with the same challenges that you're wrestling with at Fisk. In a moment like this, where these challenges are so acute, why would one want to step into a situation? I literally had a guest on our program earlier, Harry Dunn. The name Harry Dunn jumps out. We all recall Harry Dunn as the black Capitol Police officer who we saw go into duty on January the 6th. And we saw him testify in front of Benny Thompson's committee, the January 6th Select Committee. So this brother was the brother cop that we all know and saw and came to respect after what happened January 6th 3 years ago. And this Negro is now running for Congress. I'm like, are you serious? Like, what? you saw all the drama that went down that day, and you're still protected. You spent 3 more years after that day protecting these Republicans who you saw lying on TV every night about what really happened that day, and now you want to be a part of that body? So we had a great conversation. He gave a great answer to it, and I support him in his campaign. But it raises the same question for you, different scenario. Why you'd want to step into this breach, as it were, at a moment like this?
And I'm going to just have to say, I think that there are some of us who truly love who we are, where we're from, what we represent, the skills and knowledge that we've gained along the way, and we think we're going to step in and make it better for those of us who are coming along behind us. It's passion. You do it because of your passionate belief. And Tavis, I will say this to you. If you just walked around that campus for 30 minutes, I'm going to say for 10 minutes, and you see these students, you see their interactions with each other, you see their interactions with faculty and staff, you will be committed to the fact that there is no greater purpose. There is no greater purpose. So this doesn't feel like a daunting experience or a daunting exercise for me. It feels like a unique privilege and opportunity, because there is nothing more exciting than seeing these students thrive at Fisk University. And I'm just going to share a side note here about thriving. So last night, there was an event here in town, and the Fisk Jubilee Singers performed.
Oh, yes.
And you can only imagine. I like how the host said, touch our souls with your voices. And it dawned upon me that Fisk Jubilee Singers, Grammy-winning, they are students who are enrolled at Fisk, who then have the privilege of auditioning to be a Fisk Jubilee Singer. And this happens every year. So they don't come to Fisk as Jubilee Singers. They come for the privilege of having the opportunity to audition and hope they make the group. But one of those singers is a young student, an international student, who's in their freshman year at Fisk, had never heard of the Jubilee Singers, but heard the gentleman in his dorm talking about they were getting ready to go audition. He decided to go audition, and as a freshman, he makes the Fisk Jubilee Singers. Fisk University is about opportunity. Opportunity that is not going to be necessarily handed to our children when they come to an institution and maybe not have any musical background or training, but they know they have a voice and they know what pitch is because they have a good ear. Where else can you go and have the fortunate privilege? Because the other part of that privilege and opportunity is that audition isn't only open to a certain group of students, it's open to every student.
Mm-hmm.
You come to Fisk because you are one of every student who will be given an opportunity to pursue an interest, a passion, or a dream. I am there only as a figurehead to make sure these students have those same privileges and opportunities 150 years from today, because it's special.
Yeah.
It's absolutely special.
I've heard the Fisk Jubilee Singers more times than I can count, and every time I hear them, they never disappoint. As a matter of fact, I think some in the audience know this. I've done a number of documentaries, of course, in my career, and one of them is a documentary called Stand. The one I'm probably the most proud of is called Stand. It was a documentary that featured me and a bunch of my black male friends on a bus tour of the South for 2 or 3 weeks. And we went to all of these amazing locations as black men, and I mean some pretty amazing guys. I mean, Cornel West, Dick Gregory, he's now gone, but Isaac Hayes. It was just an amazing Michael Eric Dyson, B.B. Winans. Speaking of singers, just a lot of folk on this bus trip with us as we moved through the South. And we filmed all this for a documentary called Stand. You can probably find it somewhere on Amazon or somewhere. It's out there. But anyway, I raised that because one of our stops was at Fisk. And the group didn't know this, but I sort of knew this as the guy who curated the trip. I knew that I was plotting out certain stops on the Southern trip based on the folk who were on the bus with me, and moments that I knew I could create for these individuals. Once we arrive, I knew that it would impact them in certain ways. So I planned a stop for everybody basically on this trip. So I went to Fisk because it turns out that Cornel West, the brilliant Dr. Cornel West, who's now running for president as an independent, Cornel West's parents met on the campus of Fisk. That I don't know if you know that or not, but that's where his parents met, and there'd be no Cornel West if there were no Fisk.
Not for Fisk.
If not for Fisk. That's where his mom and daddy met, and that's how we ended up with Cornel West years later. I digress on that point, but it was quite a moment when Dr. West when we pulled up and he saw the Fisk sign, and all the tears just started rolling. To be back on this campus where his mother and father had met all those years prior. So there's a lot of history on this campus. I'm watching my time. I got just less than 3 minutes here. We had a guest, again, earlier on this program today talking about the Biden administration and the campaign, of course, they're waging to get reelected. And one of the points that he makes everywhere he goes, the president does, is what he's done for HBCUs. And I know you're just relatively new to the job, but when President Biden brags about what he's done for HBCUs, is that something we should take seriously? Is he telling us the truth?
So I'm going to say two things quickly because you said 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Number one.
Now you got two, but go ahead.
Okay. Now it's time to do Stand again. It's also time to revisit the covenant again. The reason I say that is that the beauty of what you have just shared is lost on many in this new generation and this new set of decision makers. It's never too late to redo these stories again, because those were impactful and powerful moments via a book and a documentary for our people. As far as President Biden, everything that I read about President Biden and Vice President Harris, they have indeed stepped up and been phenomenal supporters of HBCU in ways and manners that count the most. And that is to help us with our bottom line by the forgiveness of a large and significant, I think, with $1.6 billion in HBCU loans to free up those bottom lines. And everybody needs to know this. The most impactful way to help our HBCUs is to give them operating dollars. And when they freed up those loans, those schools were able to move forward unencumbered by the necessity of being. So I absolutely think that they have put their money where their mouth is, and they've helped the HBCUs in that manner. Absolutely.
Her name is Dr. Eugenia Clark. She is the president of Fisk University, and I can tell you this, Dr. Clark. I haven't even said this publicly yet. We haven't made the announcement yet, but since you tempted me, I'll make it public right about now. So it turns out I don't know when I'll do a stand part 2 on the documentary, but I can tell you this: since you mentioned The Covenant with Black America, that book that went to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, the first black book by a black publisher to be #1 on the Times list, stayed there for years. I was for weeks rather. I was pleased to compile and edit it. This is the 20th anniversary this year of The Covenant, and I can tell you right now that we are literally working on the final pages right now for the 20th anniversary edition. The 20th anniversary of The Covenant will be out later this year. So you hear it first on Tavis Smiley. More about that a little bit later, but we'll get you a 20th anniversary copy later this year. Thank you for that. Thank you for your service. I'll talk to you somewhere down the road. Dr. Clark, all the best to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
What's your core